my blue-collar roots. Feel like I'm working overtime on a runaway train. I got to bust loose from this ball and chain. I'm a hard working man. I got it all on the line for a piece of the promised land. And I'm burning my candle at both ends. About the only way to keep the fire going is to outrun the wind. Come Friday night, I like to party hard. I carry on with the Cadillac cutie, spend my whole week's pay on some weekend beauty. Come Monday morning, I'm the first to arrive. I ain't nothing but business, y'all, from 9 to 5. I'm a hard working man. I got it all on the line for a piece of the promised land. And I'm burning my candle at both ends. About the only way to keep the fire going is to outrun the wind. I can't wait to get up in the morning and do it all over again. Well, I'm a hard-living, hard-working man. Women too. I'm the son of a third-generation farmer. I've been married 10 years to the farmer's daughter. I'm a God-fearing, hard-working combine driver, hogging up the road on my plower, chugga-lugga-lugging 5 miles an hour on my international harvester. 3 miles of cars laying on their horns, falling on deaf ears of corn, lined up behind me like a big parade of late to work, road rage jerks, shouting obscene words, flipping me the bird. Well, you may be on a state paved road, but that blacktop runs through my payload. Excuse me for trying to do my job, but this year ain't been no bumper crop. If you don't like the way I'm a-driving, get back on the interstate. Otherwise, sit tight and be nice and quit your honking at me that way. 'Cause I'm the son of a third-generation farmer. I've been married 10 years to the farmer's daughter. I got 2 boys in the county 4-H. I'm a lifetime sponsor of the FFA. Hey, that's what I make. I make a lot of hay for a little pay. But I'm proud to say I'm a God-fearing, hard-working combine driver, hogging up the road on my plower, chugga-lugga-lugging 5 miles an hour on my international harvester. Well, I know you got your own deadlines, but cussing at me won't save you no time, hoss. This big-wheeled wide load ain't going any faster, so just smile and wave and tip your hat to the man up on the tractor. 'Cause I'm the son of a third-generation farmer. I've been married 10 years to the farmer's daughter. I'm a God-fearing, hard-working combine driver, hogging up the road on my plower, chugga-lugga-lugging 5 miles an hour on my international harvester. Hard-working combine driver, hogging up the road on my flower, chugga-lugga-lugging 5 miles an hour on my international harvester.
Well, I got roots where the saltbush grow. I'm an Australian boy in the land of boredom and brigalow. I'm an Australian boy. BHP, I'm an Australian boy. I've got a girl back in Emerald waiting for me. I'm an Australian boy, stuck out here at the end of the line. I've got a few mates and I'm doing alright. I hit the weekend like a 303. I'm an Australian boy, kicking up a dust storm, blowing off steam. I'm an Australian boy. I'm stuck in traffic on Flinders Street. It's the blues and the farmers at the MCG. It's laying rubber on the road, turning up the heat, having big times, hitting red lines, taking knocks and getting back on your feet. I'm a Townsville digger in Afghanistan. I'm an Australian boy. Tell the kids that I'll be home soon. I'm an Australian boy. Na 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 na. I'm an Australian boy. Na 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 na. I'm an Australian boy. Stand by my mates, so stand by the flag. I'm an Australian boy. Na 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 na. I'm an Australian boy. I believe in the green and gold. I'm an Australian boy.
I was a third string dreamer on a second place team, but I was hell on wheels with a full head of steam when coach put me in, and I'm still proud of that hit. I was the last resort to go to prom with the queen, thanks to an ex-boyfriend who broke her heart that week. No, I didn't get lucky, but I still felt like a king. And that might not mean much to you, but it does to me. So say I'm in middle of the road, not much to show, underachieving average Joe, but I'm a hell of a lover, a damn good brother, and I wear this heart on my sleeve. that might not mean much to you, but it does to me. I was the one phone call when my brother went to jail. Pawned my guitar just to pay his bail. No, I'll never get it back, but I'm okay with that. I was the first man standing next to my best friend. The day the love of his life said I'd do to him. I was a couple beers deep, but I still remember that speech. And that might not mean much to you, but it does to me. So say I'm in the middle of the road, not much to show, underachieving, average Joe. But I'm a hell of a lover, a damn good brother, and I wear this heart on my sleeve. And that might not mean much to you, but it does to me.
There's a worn-out blade that my granddaddy gave me. My mama's first Bible, daddy's Don Williams Bible. That first fish catching's in cold 33. Well, that might not mean much to you, but it does to me.
So say I'm in the middle of the road, not much to show, underachieving, average Joe. But I'm a hell of a lover, a damn good brother, and I wear this heart on my sleeve. And I'm a damn hard working, one thing's for certain, I stand up for what I believe. And that might not mean much to you, but it does to me. Yeah, it does to me.
On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, I met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us, and he began to speak. He said, "Son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces and knowing what the cards were by the way they held their eyes. So if you don't mind my saying, I can see you're out of aces. For a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice." So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light, and the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, "If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done." Every gambler knows that the secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away, knowing what to keep. 'Cause every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser, and the best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. And when he'd finished speaking, he turned back toward the window, crushed out a cigarette, faded off to sleep. And somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even. But in his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold up, when to hold up, know when to fold up, know away and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting. When the dealing's done, you got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done.
Spuds, I drive tractors, I fix pumps, I plow dirt, I run stock, life's good, I thank God. Well, there's a shed out the back with a bench and a vise, a motor pulled down and irrigation pipes. When the pump won't pump, you strip it all down, the thing won't go, you figure it out. I milk cows, I grow spuds, I drive tractors, I fix pumps, I plow dirt, I run stock, life's good, I thank God. Well, I'm up for the dawn, I'm off to the shed. The herd comes in about 100 head. Well, they're all my mates, I call them by name. There's Dolly and Daisy, Elvis and Jane. I milk cows, I grow spuds, I drive tractors, I fix pumps, I plow dirt, I run stock, life's good, I thank God. Well, I get through the drought, I'm walking in dust, and in a big wet, I'm sinking in mud. Well, I learned from the best, I learned on the job. I'm carrying on where my father left off. I milk cows, I grow spuds, I drive tractors, I fix pumps, I plow dirt, I run stock, life's good, I thank God. I clear scrub, I cut wood, I get dry, a beer's good, I like it here, I hate crowds, it's my life, I milk cows, hey!
To wonder whether Lee Kernaghan wrote that song for the man that we've come to honour today. I milk cows, I grow spuds, I drive tractors, I fix pumps, I plough dirt, I run stock, and life's good. Really sums up Glenn Richard Carr, a son, a brother, a teacher, a husband, a father-in-law and pop, a farmer and a teacher, a mentor and a friend. Wow. Testament by the number of people in our chapel today. What a friend he was. So today we do stand with one another in the face of his sudden passing. Glenn was only 70, full of vitality and strength, a man who prided himself on his health and independence. His loss has come as a great shock to all who knew him, and it's natural that our hearts are heavy today. A funeral is many things. It is a time to acknowledge a death, but it's also a time to remember a life. It is a moment to express our grief openly and to draw strength from one another. Grief is a sign of love. It is the ache left behind when someone who mattered so much is no longer beside us. There is no right way to grieve. Some of us cry, some stay silent, some smile through tears and memories. All of those things are welcome here today. Glenn's story is rooted deeply in the soil. A fourth-generation farmer in the Upper Natone area, he lived and worked on the land all his life. Dairy, beef and potatoes, continuing the legacy of those before him. He respected his forefathers, listened and learned from the men of the previous generation, and carried their knowledge forward with quiet pride. Although his work was demanding, it was also his joy. He often said he'd never worked a day in his life because he loved what he did. He was hardworking and down to earth, a calming influence on all those around him. He treated his employees with dignity and fairness, and in return, they held him in deep respect. He didn't seek the spotlight, but he shone as a teacher, a mentor, a leader, and a true friend. At home, he had the loyal company of his beloved Kelpie JJ, Jack Jr., who was feeling lost and bewildered by Glenn's absence. This afternoon, we will remember Glenn with gratitude, honour his achievements, and give thanks for the example he set. May this service be a space for stories, for tears, for laughter, and for the comfort of shared memories as we farewell a remarkable man. On behalf of his partner, Janine, daughters Katrina and Kristen, and stepchildren Jason, Kayla and Matthew and their families, I welcome you here today to farewell Glenn in a loving and meaningful way, in the way that he would want, not too much fuss and not too many tears. I also welcome all those who are joining us online, having been unable to be here in the chapel, especially family and friends on the mainland and overseas, and his very special Japanese family, potato growers who travelled to Tasmania to learn from Glenn. At the conclusion of our service, the family invite you to remain here for light refreshments and to share your stories before adjourning to the Natone Football Club rooms to raise a glass and toast a man who will be deeply missed in the Natone community and wider afield. So we remember and give thanks for the life of Glenn Richard Carr, born on the 2nd of December 1954 to Leslie and Millie Carr, farming folk in the Upper Natone district. From his birth, the land was in his blood. As a fourth-generation farmer, he worked hard on the land with a sense of responsibility and respect for those who had come before him. He grew up alongside his three brothers, Dale, now sadly deceased, Kenny, and his twin, Gary. From an early age, Glenn would follow his grandfather everywhere he could, learning, helping, and absorbing the rhythms of farm life. He went to Natone Area School, played a bit of footy, and made lifelong friends. At 16, He left school to begin an apprenticeship at the pulp as a fitter and turner, also working for Alf Ellery Engineering. This skill would become one of the foundations of his farming life. If Glenn didn't have a part for a machine, he could make it. If something broke, he could fix it. He knew the value of having a trade and, through his life, encouraged his younger workers to take apprenticeships just as he had. In 1979, he married his school acquaintance Suzanne Close, one of many girls who had been a little enamoured of this young man from Upernatone. They married on the 27th of January 1979. They built a house on Upernatone Road and moved in the following year. They welcomed their daughters Katrina in 1979 and Kristen in 1982. In 1984, they swapped houses with Glenn's mum and dad, moving up onto the property known as Glengarry, where Glenn's roots ran the deepest. As I said earlier, farming was not a job for Glenn, it was his life. He milked cows, sowed potatoes, raised beef cattle, ran trucks and a backhoe that worked for the DMR. As a potato grower, he serviced the industry across the coast from Hagley to Table Cape. His potatoes were highly sought after by Simplot and McCain's. Glenn worked closely with his brother Dale for many years. Dale had one of the first round balers in the district, and together they baled hay for farms all around. Their old square baler from those early days is still in use. Dale's death in 2016 was a blow, but his son Steve stepped into the farming partnership, keeping the family connection strong. Although Glenn never or rarely sought the spotlight, the Carr name became highly respected across Upernatone and the wider district. He was known for his loyalty, honesty, and fairness. He was also a tough businessman when needed, able to make those hard calls, but he did mellow in later years. He gave people a go if he saw potential in them, and he treated everyone with dignity. Everyone respected him because he respected them. Glenn had a sharp head for numbers, an ability inherited from his father. He could estimate yields, income, or tonnage of potatoes off a paddock with uncanny accuracy. Maintenance was of a high priority for Glenn too, ensuring all his machinery was well looked after. He was also a calming influence, someone who could quietly sort out a dispute between workers or neighbours. Family memories are woven through the seasons of farm life. The girls remember Christmases at Nan Carr's, the goose with plenty of feathers still on it, Pop Carr's annual box of fruit for each family, and Mr. Whippy arriving at the property every Sunday. Glenn's bond with his brother Kenny was unbreakable. They spoke every day, and even now, Kenny rings Janine each morning since Glenn's passing, a small ritual to keep connection alive. It was 2008 when Janine came into Glenn's life. She brought her own energy and love of the farm, working her day job and then coming home to help Glenn. Many Christmas lunches were eaten on the back of the ute in the paddock because the work had to be done, and Glenn loved doing it. Together they made time for one trip a year: Europe, the United States, Vietnam, Japan. Yes, it was a holiday, but always with some farming connection along the way. Glenn loved the Natone Footy Club and supported St Kilda. He was a man who rarely showed emotion in words, as was the way of his generation, but he showed his love in what he did for his family, his workers, and his community. When the grandchildren came along, he always made time to take them for rides on the tractor, passing down that joy of the land. And as I said earlier, his faithful Kelpie. There was first Jack the Kelpie, and then Jack Jr., JJ, who for the last 2 years has been Glenn's constant companion. JJ now wanders the house a little lost, just as we all do without Glenn's steady presence. Simply, Glenn Carr was a man of his word, a man of the land, honest as the day is long. A teacher, a mentor, a friend. He listened and learned from the older generation, and others learned from him. His sudden passing leaves a gap not just on the farm, but in the whole community and in the potato industry across the coast. Today, we honour him. We remember a man who worked hard but loved every day of it, who built and maintained a legacy, who taught by example, who could fix anything, estimate anything, and keep everything in its place. A man who loved his family in the way he knew how, who remained humble despite all he achieved. We will miss his calm, his guidance, his humour, his presence. But his life's work and his values live on in his family, his workers, his land, and in all of us who had the privilege to know him. Photographs are a wonderful way to depict aspects of someone's life. The first set have been put together with love, and it is supported by John Deere Green and She's My Ute.
They met in high school in the 60s. Everyone knew it was love from the start. One July in the midnight hour, they climbed up on the water tower, stood on the rail and painted a 10-foot heart. And John Deere Green, on a hot summer night, he wrote Billy Bob Love Charlene in letters 3 foot high. And the hotel said that he should have used red, but it looked good to Charlene. And John Deere Green. He settled down on 80 acres, raising sweet corn, kids and tomatoes. They went together like a hand in a glove. Yes, they did. On a clear day from their front yard, if you look and know what to look for, off to the east you can still read his words of love. In John Deere Green, on a hot summer night, he wrote Billy Bob Love Charlene in letters 3 foot high. And the hotel said the boy should have used red, but it looked good to Charlene. And John Deere Green. Sneaking past the dealers on the edge of town. Saw a lot of pretty pickups, not a you to be found. Twin cam jack floors, a bloke would be nuts. Give me a 6 or an 8, a 4-wheel mate, the dents and the dust and the grasshopper guts. She's got holes in a muffler and a gearbox clock. I can stern call her a piece of old junk. When the work's been done at the end of the day, she's my youth, I'll keep it that way. She's my youth and she's here to stay. You can see them blowings in their 4x4s, jumping up and down about a scratch on the door. But I've got a young for every dent, a big red roof, a pig or two, a hole in the roof that Carl shot through. She's got holes in a muffler and a gearbox clock. I can't stern call her a piece of old junk. When the work's been done at the end of the day, she's my ute, I'll keep it that way. She's my ute and she's here to stay. She laid down the law. She said you can't keep that dirty old dude anymore. There comes a point when a man's gotta choose. Well, I told her straight, I'll stick with my mate. She's been gone a year, but the youth's still here. She's got holes and a muffler and a gearbox clock. Like her stern call her a piece of old junk. When the work's been done at the end of the day, she's got holes in a muffler and a gearbox clock. Like her stern call her a piece of old junk. When the work's been done at the end of the day, she's my youth, I'll keep it that way. She's my youth and she's here to stay.
Fantastic memories contained within that set of photos. There are family tributes this afternoon, and I'd like to call Glenn's daughters, Katrina and Kristen.
My dad, and also known to Ivana as Bobby Carr. Dad, I thought we had a little more time. There was so much more I need to ask advice on. Even though you were a busy man, you always answered my call. But I'd wish to hear your voice one more time. Dad, even though your feet were little, what big shoes you have left for us to fill. Growing up on the farm and helping you shift those bloody irrigators is something I will remember forever. We had some long nights doing this, no underground main back then, a lot of pipes to be set up, and things usually didn't go to plan when we went to start that pump. You taught me that you had to work for what you wanted at an early age. There was no pocket money in our home growing up. We were set certain chores and just got on with it. But at the end of it all, my gift from you and Mum was my very first car. We won't tell everyone what you did to the kilometres on the car when I first got it. I'm sure you can all work it out. Once I left school, we grew apart as I left the farm and found a job which you were very proud of. You continued to milk those cows and worked on growing more and more and more potatoes to become a very successful operator in the business, which I read recently known as the potato industry legend. I remember the day I came down to visit you, Father's Day, back in 2015. I had a card and a little present for you to unwrap. So you unwrapped the present, opened the card, but obviously did not read it properly and sat it back down. Janine read the card and looked at me with surprised eyes. In the card was a note to say, "Happy Father's Day, Dad. You're soon going to become a pop." So Janine made him read the card properly this time around. And he finally read he was going to become a poppy Carr to a little baby who is now his granddaughter, Ivana. After Ivana was born, I came back to the farm working as your bookkeeper, which has led me to work alongside you in the background in the potato industry. It amazed me every single time I sat down and worked out each potato grower payment, you knew within the dollar value of how much it would be. But your paperwork skills left me frustrated, and often a few choice words were used. But what I would give to have you sit beside me one more time to discuss those payments. Thank you for everyone who has messaged, called, sent flowers, came and visited, and for the cooking that has been provided. It has just been so overwhelming that I haven't been able to respond to you all. I would also like to especially thank all our employees. He loved working alongside you all each and every day. And as Dad would say, thank you, I appreciate it. Janine, thank you from the bottom of my heart. We could not have asked for anyone better to look after our dad like you did. So Dad, this is my final see you soon. They must have needed you upstairs to plant a paddock of potatoes. And the message, Dad loves you and Ivana, I got from you a few days ago, will forever hold close to my heart. I hope the beers are flowing and I'll catch you for one more soon. I love you. And I'll just get my uncle to read something from Ivana.
To Poppy, you will always be my shining star. At night, you will always be looking down on me. We will all miss you so much. You will be in our hearts forever. Love from Ivana.
Dear Dad, I still can't quite believe we're standing here today. I didn't think it was anywhere near your time to go, but clearly somebody upstairs needed you more than we need you here. So many more things I wanted to talk to you about, more advice I needed to hear, so much more I wanted to say. A father's love for his daughter is the first love she'll know. Dad, you were my first love and taught me so much about life. I'm so grateful that you were my dad. The lessons you taught me I will never forget. I always admired the way you loved what you did so much. They say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. You were the true meaning of this quote. You absolutely loved what you did. Over the years, the way you built your business, progressed with technology, mentored many others, and shared your skills and knowledge, I absolutely looked up to you every day. Sometimes I wish I wasn't so much like you, in the way I'm dedicated, or some say obsessed with my work, but I can't change the values and work ethic you instilled in me, and now will treasure it as a memory of you and be forever grateful. I often wished you would take more time out, have more holidays, Reward yourself for all the hard work that you do. But you were happy doing what you did, so why would you want to leave? Over the last few years, you and Janine did enjoy some more time on holidays, which I'm sure she will treasure forever. I remember the recent trip to Queensland you had with Janine and your close friends Scott and Anne. You were so happy and enjoyed this trip so much, especially the quality time you got to spend with Mark and I and the boys. You loved your grandchildren and cherished the time you did get to spend together. The boys absolutely adored you, always talking of Poppy and his tractors, his cows and his farm. Every trip to Tassie, one of the highlights was visiting the farm. You always made time when we visited and showed them around, showing them the calves, the cows, and Beau's favourite, the bull, and lots of tractor rides. I have so many fond memories of my childhood and growing up on the farm. I never did truly appreciate how lucky I was until I was much older. I couldn't wait to move to town, and all my childhood friends that lived in town couldn't wait for holidays to come and visit the farm. Helping with the cows, riding motorbikes, shifting irrigators, stacking wood, many of my favourite memories and those things that have helped shape me into who I am today. You taught us from a young age the importance of hard work, and nothing comes easy. You have to work for it. I will instill the same values in my boys. I watched the sacrifices you made and understand why. Valuable life lessons not everybody is taught. I remember the story Mark told me when he rang you to get your blessing to marry me. You must have been up the back of Upernatone somewhere and it was blowing a gale. Mark had to repeat a few times who it was until you finally realised, not like he was already nervous enough. Later on, you told Mark you thought it was somebody ringing looking for a job. Well, in a way, Mark said, I guess I kind of was. Every day, I have my very own reminder of you in little Casey Glenn. From the moment Casey was born, I could see you in him, and progressively more as he has grown. That same cheeky grin and his cheeky little personality, forever a perfect memory of you. When I broke the terrible news to my boys, it was heartbreaking. Beau said, so Poppy is in heaven now with Daddy's dad. We said yes. He said, did he take his phone? Can we call him? My thoughts on this, we don't need a phone to call you. We can talk to you whenever we like. I know you will always be listening. Casey went and grabbed one of his little cars and said, it isn't working, Mummy. I said, no, mate, the batteries are flat. And he said, but Poppy gave it to me. And he sure did the last time we saw you. It's funny how they just know. It shows, Dad, by all the people that are here today and all the love and support that has come in over the last week, how much you were loved and respected in the community. We are all so proud of everything you achieved. You're going to be so greatly missed. We're all going to look after Janine and your farm as best we can to continue on with your legacy. We know you will do all you can from up there to help along the way. I love you, Dad.
I have a letter that Janine has asked me to read, so I'll read this one first. My darling Glenn, where do I start? We came into each other's lives 18 years ago and we just clicked. Boy, did my life change from then. Working 5 days a week to 7. I really found out what farming life was all about. From up at 3:30am to get my job done in town, to knocking off at lunchtime to jump on the back of a harvester, renovating a house, to working on the farm, life was never quiet. We had the same work ethic, just get it done. You were my rock, as I was yours. We went to work together and came home together. We were a team and got done what we had to. You loved coming home to our little haven at the end of the day. It was our time and our place and our time to relax. Together with the boys, we built the company we have today, from strength to strength, through long and hard days. You respected your boys, they respected you. Our achievements made you so proud. Keep those tractor wheels turning, digging spuds, milking cows, and all the farming jobs that made you happy until I got there to help you and be by your side once again. I will carry you in my heart for the rest of my life. Glenn Carr Proprietary Limited will never be the same without you at the helm, but the boys and I will carry it on in the best way we can to make you proud. Rest easy, my little man, until we meet again. Forever, your little Nanny. I'd like to warmly welcome you on behalf of Janine, Katrina and Kristen and their extended families to celebrate Glenn's life and the part he played in everybody's life in this room and watching by live stream. Over the last 10 days, our worlds, according to our connections and position in Glenn's life, have been thrown into turmoil, and the relative feelings and emotions have become raw and tender with loss. My intention today is to shed some light on my uncle's work history and to pay tribute to the role he played in our lives. Glenn was introduced into this world somewhat unexpectedly on the 2nd of December 1954. Gary, Glenn's twin brother, was born with Millie and Les Codger delighted by the news of a bouncing baby boy. An exhausted Millie was asked the question, "Would you like some more good news, Mrs. Carr?" Nan, Millie, I can imagine with an exhausted look, and Pop, Codger, with I'm sure would have been a faltering step after being told a second baby was coming, welcomed Glenn into the world. I've often heard Gary using this minute in time, often saying, "I was the first, so I'm the oldest." Glenn, flanked by his Minuteman brother, Gary, and two older brothers, Kenny and my dad, Dale, made a very handsome foursome growing up in the foothills of Up in the Tone. Glenn at a very young age developed a strong work ethic, heading out to the bush cutting wood before school and after, on weekends and on holidays, taking mates and an old red Bedford truck owned by my great-grandfather, Fardy, or Dick Carr. The money he earned from doing that went towards a car, a Hillman Hustler. But of course his licence had to be obtained, so Gary and Glenn headed down together with a conversation on the way down. I'm told went as follows. Glenn, to Gary, "I don't reckon you'll get your licence. I've studied all the questions, I know all the answers. I've got this in the bag. There's no way known I'm coming home without that licence. No way." Things did not go as planned for the academic ducks, and I believe Gary triumphantly drove the car home, sporting a licence and a grin from ear to ear. Glenn, completing his schooling at the Tone, went to TAFE to begin an apprenticeship with a pulp as a fitter and turner. Completing that, he then gained employment under Alf Ellery at Ellery Engineering, working at the acid plant in Burnie on maintenance crews and also running maintenance at Tioxide on shutdowns. Whilst all this was going on, he developed a high level of tradesmanship, which he ultimately brought back to what he really had a passion for, and that was farming. In the early 80s, Glenn started growing potatoes on leased ground until 1984 when he swapped houses with Codger and Millie, Nan and Pop, and took over the farm and Up in the Tone, and from there aspirations and dreams were born. A very strong partnership between Glenn and my dad began to blossom. Glenn in his own right milked cows, with the milk being supplied to lactose, and he began rearing some calves as a beef runoff, and of course potatoes being grown for Eagles at the time. And my dad and his shadow, me, running our current farm at South Rona, only 10 minutes away. This partnership cultivated what would be a lifelong passion for all of us for grass, dust and diesel, helping each other with harvests, plantings and baling. Growing up for me was the best. I grew up being taught and mentored by two of the best. Two of the best mentors in the game. Both Glenn and Dad had a curiosity and determination to be at the forefront of new developments and advancements in new machinery. This was evident in them trialling what I believe was the first ever prototype of a silage wrapper in the world, developed by a company in Ulverston. Being a prototype, it wasn't without teething problems. I have a memory of one such instance where the rotating platform needed a much closer look, which required someone to sit on the table as it spun, aka Dad. So with Glenn at the controls and a very eager Dale as the passenger and fault fighter, the ride of trepidation began. The variable rate controller, aka Glenn, seemed to be a little erratic, causing Dad to call off the maintenance mission, dismount and stagger 5 steps sideways to the ground, leaving myself and Glenn with smirks on their faces, and Dad trying to regain his composure, saying, "I think you'll have to slow the bloody table down." Another such vehicle that gave an unintended joyride was a quad bike that Glenn bought when they were very much a novelty. Glenn was very keen to show off his new red beast and its manoeuvrability, saying to Dad and myself, "Check out the turning circle on this." He jumped on the red beast, kicked her into gear, and briefed on the handlebars, pushed the throttle forward, and what happened next can be called a moment in time where Glenn and the beast became parted, with one of the tyres taking a bite out of one of South Rwinda's finest rocks, catapulting Glenn through the air and a 10 out of 10 landing on his feet, and the angry, hurtling red beast engaging in a forward triple somersault down the hill. I'll leave it to you to work out how the conversation went afterwards. My working life began in 1989, leaving school in earnest, becoming part of a machine I aspired to be part of, driven by Glenn and my dad. Success was long days, ingenuity, and a capacity to just get it done. That year I grew a 23-acre paddock of spuds in halves with Glenn at Up and Atone. At the encouragement of Rod Doble from Edgells at the time, we bought our first trailing spud harvester, which was a Cumberland UN21 rowover. This was a big decision for us, which was the start of some contract work as well to justify the expense, with myself being chucked into the driver's seat at 16 and Glenn and Dad having faith that I would be able to handle the responsibility. After this, Glenn bought a Grimmy 7540 second-hand harvester, which we took on more work with. It was a great life. I loved it. Glenn on the back guiding me and growing my love of potatoes in the industry. In my time working alongside Glenn, I always valued the work ethic he showed. This consisted of never saying no to work or an opportunity and always being giving someone he could see promise in a chance, getting down to a level of connection and acceptance and growing the relationship till it blossomed. Glenn's patience and calm were pivotal in my eyes in making things work. I was asked the other day if I ever saw him lose his temper. There was only one occasion that I saw him lose his cool. We were harvesting potatoes at the top end of Up and Atone, and the belt had come off a wraparound harvester. He had a red SIG chrome toolbox, which he had meticulously maintained since his apprenticeship years, which he carried, when needed, in the back of an old panel van he had. This day it came out and sat in the grass beside the job for ease of access, stacked, organised, and every tool knowingly placed in its correct order. Well, next minute, the harvester is fixed and moved back to the row, into the road to recommence work. My pop, Codger, being the unofficial on-site foreman and the social butterfly, sitting in his ute, decided it was time to quit his posting as social commentator and back away from his captivated followers, making a blind beeline for, you guessed it, the prized red toolbox. My solid memory from that day, that fateful day, is the sound of a red toolbox still being pressure tested and crumpled under the ute's unrelenting weight advantage. My uncle hearing and witnessing his beloved treasure leapt from the tractor seat. The look on his face and the howl from deep within his stomach caused the sky to darken, birds took flight, and my grandfather hastily retreated from the semi-tortured toolbox that lay lifeless, mangled from the accidental onslaught. The rest I'll leave up to your imaginations. Apart from that episode, my uncle seemed unflappable in my eyes, calm and resilient, something I wanted to be. I wanted to emulate. He was also a generous man and reliable and a man of his word. My dad spent a lot of time in hospital when he became sick. Glenn never missed a beat, with visits and phone calls to both Dad and myself, a loving brother and an uncle. Glenn, your tenacity and vision and your outcomes and the operation and team you've built is a testament to all the qualities and dedication I've just mentioned. It has placed you as a stalwart of the industry you have loved, and to those people like myself that have looked at you through eyes of love, mateship and family. For this I will forever be thankful that I had two of the best mentors a kid and a man could ever wish for. Picking up that phone won't be the same Just like with my dad, no more tips, advice, or that g'day, how you going? The lessons, both intended and unintentional, will stay with me, both in my mind and heart, forever as my mentor, my uncle, and my mate. To quote the Stoic Marcus Aurelius, "It is not death that a man should fear, but that he should fear never beginning to live." Glenn passed doing what he loved and made his own. All that can be asked of a man is that you find what you love and who you love, and let that serve you. Rest easy, mate. Go with Pop, Nan, Uncle Bob, and your best mate, my dad. Thank you.
Well done, Steve and Katrina and Kristen. Beautiful testaments to a wonderful man. We now have a second set of photographs that will show us a few more areas of Glenn's life, this time supported by Luke Bryan singing Drink a Beer and Lee Kernighan's Damn Good Mates.
When I got the news today, I didn't know what to say, so I just hung up the phone. I took a walk to clear my head, and this is where the walk-in led. Can't believe you're really gone. Don't feel like going home, so I'm gonna sit right here on the edge of this pier and watch the sunset disappear, and drink a beer. Funny how the good ones go too soon, but the good Lord knows the reasons why, I guess. Sometimes a greater plan is kinda hard to understand. Right now it don't make sense. I can't make it all make sense, so I'm gonna sit right here on the edge of this pier and watch the sunset disappear, and drink a beer. So long, my friend, until we meet again. I'll remember you and all the times that we used to sit right here on the edge of this pier and watch the sunset disappear, and drink a beer. Drink a beer. Drink a beer. step in a ditch. You can't pull forward and you can't back out. You're sitting there thinking what you gonna do now.
You'd be a little nervous if a cop showed up, 'cause you drank a little, maybe just a little too much. Waiting on a tow truck takes too long. It's 2 in the morning, who you gonna call?
Mates, damn good mates. Half an hour later they're pulling you out. You know the ones I'm talking about. Mates, damn good mates. You can count them all on one of your hands. Got 100 friends and a couple of damn good mates.
So you're all shooting pool on a Saturday night. This little brunette keeps giving you the eye. So you buy her a drink, and before too long, you're out on the floor in the middle of a song.
Well, about that time a wreck shows up. He's staring you down, getting all bowed up. He's a big old jacked up SOB. That's alright, he's about to meet your mates. Damn good mates. A few seconds later he's starting to sink. It ain't 1-on-1, it's 1-on-3. Mates, damn good mates. They do it for you 'cause you do it for them. You got 100 friends and a couple of damn good mates.
And there even when you don't see him as much, 'cause you moved away or you fell in love.
But they're wearing the tux when you're saying your vows.
And if you crash and burn, you can crash on the couch.
Mates, damn good mates. They love you like a brother, there ain't no doubt. You know the ones I'm talking about. Mates, damn good mates. You can count them all on one of your hands. Got 100 friends and a couple of damn good mates. Oh, damn good mates.
Again, memories filled with so much love, and I'm sure he had more than damn good mates that you count on 2 hands. Far more than that. Our final tribute this afternoon is from his dear friend Scott. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, for a start, it gives me great honour to be asked to share a few of my experiences and knowledge of Glenn. And I've also got to say it was nowhere near long enough. 20 odd years ago, Glenn started his farming, and I was mainly, I guess, on the business side of it. He started with 1 harvester and a couple of tractors. As the business grew, of course, purchases grew, and Glenn's purchasing way was to say, can you get me one, mate? And it was just verbal and a handshake. Didn't have to worry about settlement, didn't have to worry about any business things. With Glenn, it always happened. I know the same, and I've spoken to a few of the growers that grew for Glenn and Carr Contracting. They knew that every effort was being made to harvest effectively, work around whatever events, and generally organise their fields like an owner would. Glenn had no off switch. When hitches happened, he just fixed it and got going for an early start next morning. Sleep was not important, and the commitment of being in a paddock next morning was priority. Factories knew Glenn Carr would deliver on all commitments. About 11 years ago, a Japanese company called Cowby Potatoes had an interest to send young field officers to Tasmania to see our ways. Over the next few years, 6 personnel from Cowby stayed with Glenn and Janine for a couple of months each season. They were all staggered by Glenn's work ethic and time he spent to share his knowledge. They all went home as part of a family, 4 or 5 kilograms heavier, thanks to Janine, or Big Boss as she was known. And after, Glenn and Janine had tremendous pride in the fact that they all improved their job titles when they got home. Glenn Carr, you had a strong, forward person, his endeavour to all, the many commitments of the farm operations and ownership and pride of a job well done. I'd just like to share what I think was Glenn Carr during one of our holidays. We went to Vietnam and we're on Ha Long Bay, which was a fabulous place. You're in a bigger boat, you're getting along, and you sort of see the shoreline and see and you get offered excursions. So this day we decided we'll get off the big boat and get onto the small ones and have a bit of a look around the bays, and you could nose up into some caves with a bit of water coming over. Anyway, it looked like it'd be okay. So personally, I like the water, and it's warm up there, so that even makes it better. And so I thought I'd have a crack on one of the surf skis, and I said to Glenn, I don't think we'll go in the big one, we'll have a go on a surf ski each. So Glenn said, oh, okay, I'll come with you, mate. I said, right. So we get to the pontoon, get on the surf ski, and yeah, well, it could have been okay 10 or 15 years ago. It seemed to have a fair bit of duct tape and a bit of fiberglass, and most of it was hanging off. But anyway, that's okay. OH&S probably isn't the same there. Then, of course, they come along with a life jacket, and well, to me, that sort of resembled a doona that the dog had a crack at. There was a fair bit hanging off it. So I'm thinking danger, contingency. So my contingency was that thing wasn't going to get wet. If I was going into the water, it was coming off because I could sort of see it as a shoreway going to the bottom. So anyway, Glenn and I are out in these surf skis, paddling along, and not many had ideas of direction, and you get hit up the side and hit across the front, and to use someone else's words, you really couldn't use farm paddock language because there was a language barrier, so that didn't really do you any good if you did that. So anyway, at the end of it all, we had a good time. We came back, got on the pontoon, and I said to Glenn, what did you think of that? I said, it's a bit hairy, wasn't it? He said, yeah, he said, a couple of times I was worried, and I just sort of said, Glenn, can you swim? He said, no, mate. I said, well, why didn't you stay in the big one? He said, well, I wanted to make sure you're okay, mate. So to me, that was Glenn Carr. Like, he couldn't swim, but he was sort of going to save me. So thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Scott. I think that was typical Glenn Carr. I wonder what he would say to us now if he was here. I think the words of Frank Mann's Farmer's Creed suit him well, and it goes like this. I believe a man's greatest position is his dignity, and that no calling bestows this more abundantly than farming. I believe hard work and honest sweat are the building blocks of a person's character. I believe that farming, despite its hardships and disappointments, is the most honest and honourable way a man can spend his days on earth. I believe my children are learning values that will last a lifetime and can be learned no other way. I believe farming provides education for life, and that no other occupation teaches so much about birth, growth and maturity in such a variety of ways. I believe many of the best things in life are indeed free. The splendour of a sunrise, the rapture of wide open spaces, and the exhilarating sight of my land greening each spring. I believe true happiness comes in watching my crops ripen in the field, my children grow tall in the sun, and my whole family feel the pride that springs from their shared experience. I believe that by my toil, I am giving more to the world than I am taking from it, an honour that does not come to all men. I believe my life will be measured ultimately by what I have done for my fellow man, and by this standard, I fear no judgment. I believe when a man grows old and sums up his days, he should be able to stand tall and feel pride in the life he's lived. I believe in farming because it makes all of that possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to farewell Glenn and send him on his final journey to be reunited with loved ones who have gone before. Would you all please stand? Glenn, today we say goodbye to you with heavy hearts, but also deep gratitude. You showed us what it was to be steady, fair, hardworking, and true to your word. You taught by example, loved the land, loved your family in your quiet way, and left a legacy that will last beyond this day. Your fields will still grow, your machines will still hum, your stories will still be told, and JJ will still keep watch. But without you, it will never feel quite the same. So Glenn, go forth from this world knowing that you are loved beyond measure, that you will be missed more than words can say, that you will be remembered and cherished, and that love will never end. We will hold you close within us, and there you will remain to be with us throughout our lives until we meet again. And as we now hold your memory in our hearts and send you on your final journey, may you forever rest in peace with the certain knowledge that our love goes with you. And so it is with love and gratitude that we now commit all these fond memories to be locked away in our hearts as we gently yield your body to be cremated. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Grateful for the life that has been and for all that life has meant to us. May we resolve that while we live, we will strive with all our might to make our living of real worth. Glenn, we celebrate you and we honour you. Thank you for all you gave to us. And so with love, we shall now leave you in peace, and with respect, we bid you a fond farewell.
There's an old man and a lazy boy, TV on a western, fast asleep. Gray in his hair, at least what's left, but the heart of a lion beating in his chest. And there's a little more slow in his go, a little less rock in his roll these days. But I remember him 10 feet tall and bulletproof, throwing me a ball in cowboy boots. A whistle and the dog started running, a whisper and mama starts blushing, a wrench in his hand and a beer in the other. I couldn't make the man any tougher, and that S on his chest is starting to fade. But I'll always remember him that way. I used to think that he'd never get old. That kind of thing was for regular Joe. And he tries real hard to put up a fight, but I guess time is his kryptonite.
I remember him 10 feet tall and bulletproof, throwing me a ball in cowboy boots. A whistle and the dog started running, a whisper and mama starts blushing, a wrench in his hand and a beer in the other. God couldn't make a man any tougher. That is on his chest is starting to fade. But I'll always remember him that way. There's a little more slow in his go, a little less rock in his world these days. But I remember him 10 feet tall and bulletproof, throwing me a ball in cowboy boots. A whistle and the dog started running, a whisper and mama starts blushing, a wrench in his hand and a beer in the other. God couldn't make a man any tougher. Your hand is on his chest, starting to fade. But there's some things time can't erase, 'cause I'll always remember him now.